Welcome back to Chapter 3, Internal CSS, Part 3. The essential outcomes for this chapter: you'll be able to manipulate the physical design of a web page by utilizing CSS internal styling, adding the universal selectors to web pages, styling the new box model for CSS, creating ID selectors, image selectors, and class selectors. You will also be able to connect key terms of the chapter with application. Like in HTML, you will need to check your CSS coding as well. The CSS validator checks all selectors and declarations. The HTML validator checked all the HTML coding. So you now need to do both of them because CSS validator checks only the CSS. HTML tags check only the actual HTML tags. Both of the links for the validators are on the class website. The validation icon for CSS. Once you get the screen below, this would be after you check for errors and you find that you have none, the W3 School provides you with some icons that shows you that your website is compatible for all browsers for CSS3. All you need to do is pick the icon that you want displayed on your website. That could be the first one or the second one. Usually it's based on what color fits best. And then you're going to paste that copied material at the bottom of your website between the two footer tags. And then paste it after the contact us. You will paste in the paragraph and then the coding and then the closing paragraph tag. Once that's in there and then you run it, you will see at the bottom of your website, you will see one of the two icons, whichever one that you chose. So when you go back to your website and you go down to the footer, you're going to see that little icon appear on your website. Section 3-3, styling the ID container div tag with a unique ID selector. The ID selector. In Chapter 2, you learned how to add an ID equals container and ID equals div1, div2, div3, and div4 property values. To style these ID property and values, you need to create a special ID selector for each of them. An ID selector is a unique or a special selector that applies a unique name to a value that can be used only once. Each of these ID equal container, ID equals div1, div2, div3, div4 all have unique value names. Thus, each of these special ID values need a unique ID selector for styling. Styling the ID container inside the div tag. In the body tag, following the closing nav tag, you have a div ID equal container tag and property value. The div ID container tag created a large box that houses numerous ID div property values. The ID container property and value needs to be styled using CSS3. The container ID selector. First, we need to create an ID selector that will target the ID container property and value in the body tag. Every ID selector starts with a number sign. The ID selector is placed in the head section. The container ID selector allows you to add styling to your div ID equals container tag found in the body section. An ID selector has to start with the number sign followed by the value container. In the example to the right, the ID selector's name is number container and it relates to the container value name in the div ID equal container tag. Note, there is a difference between the ID selector and the ID property and value. The ID selector is found in the head section between the opening and closing style tags. The ID equal container is found in the body section inside the first div tag. The ID selector includes the height and width, border, style, color, padding, and any other styling you want to include to make the section look the way you want it. CSS3 styling for the ID selector. The min width and max width sets the dimensions for the width of the container. Min height and max height sets the dimensions for the height of the container. The border creates the border. Pixel sets the width of the border. Solid is the type of border. And the color, the number 0 or number sign 000FF sets the color. Padding sets the spacing between the border and the text or object inside the border. Section 3-3 has just been completed. It's time for your activity. Return to the index.html document inside the Chapter 3 folder. Find the UL/LI selectors in the Style section between the opening and closing style tag. Using CSS inline styling, style the property and value for the ID container tag located inside the div tag of the body section. Place the ID selector after the UL/LI selectors in the head section. You have just finished section 3-3. When you have shown me your work, please move on to section 3-4.